Hi all, my name is Stephen Barbaro, and this is my presentation on human development on the journal article Attachments Beyond Infancy, written by Mary Ainsworth. Once again, my name is Stephen Barbaro. Here's my presentation. Now the question arises, what is human development? When you're born as an infant. This is usually the age range between being born and 3 years old. Now, when you're first born, psychologically, you're underdeveloped. You haven't been taught a lot how to behave, how to act, how to think. That's why it's often that an infant turns to a parental guidance to show them how to develop, and then a bond is then created. And then if there is a bond created and the infant develops into childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, late adulthood, and elderly, and so on. So there usually should be a correlation between development and age. Sometimes there is problems with that. If the child doesn't have a parental guidance, they don't have a family, there could often be behavioral problems and they could be underdeveloped psychologically. Now, we're going to talk about the attachment theory, especially in early development. Now, what is this theory? This is a theory that views infants' attachments to a caregiver as a mechanism that was evolved to protect infants from predators. So basically, we're looking for a bond with somebody who could protect us, hence a parent. This theory also suggests that infants and babies are biologically predisposed to become attached to something or someone. It was best said by Mary Ainsworth in the journal article. Attachment is a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another. Now, a little background on Mary Ainsworth and her theory. She was born in 1913. She worked very closely with John Bowlby, and this is important because her work was mostly based on his theory of attachment. However, she had her own development on this theory called the strain situation assessment, and what this used to observe children's attachments and what type of attachments they had. Human development, the attachment theory after infancy. The caregiving system that underlies the parent's bond to the children. I talked about this a little earlier. The kid often looks to a parent or parent type to help show them the way and protect them. Once you start developing, getting older, you might begin to get an attachment towards somebody else, a more intimate relationship, sexual paired bonds, and the basic components, reproductive attachments, and caregiving systems. Human development allows us to form a much more intimate bond between humans. This goes hand in hand with Mary Ainsworth's theory. Next up, we have the human development and friendships and secure blocks. Now, friendships are often seen as a secure block, and what this means is you can rely on your friend to help get you through hard times. Friendship, both in childhood and adulthood. The behavioral systems underlying them often causes the circumstances that may form these bonds. So basically, you might be attached to hanging out with your friend or sharing a moment with them. Now, here's Ainsworth's twist on human development. Ainsworth worked very closely on the theory of attachment with John Bowlby, as I said before. Her own theory was called the strain situation, and now this was an interesting theory. This tested the behavior displayed in kids ranging from about 18 months to 12 years, I believe, and how they reacted when they were left with their mother and how they reacted when they were reunited. Continuing on, the hypothesis was clear. The children or teens would be the group used in this experiment, and this would show the different behavioral aspects based on the closeness of bonds, the attachment, and the age, how developed they are. The results are as followed. Now, there are 3 attachment types. There's secure attachment, avoidant insecure attachment, and resistant insecure attachment. Now, each of these attachment types led to a different corresponding result in the experiment. Let's use secure, for example. Now, when the mom left the room, I know from personal experience, if I was 18 months old and my mom left me in the room by myself, I would show some discomfort and anxiety. Now, if a stranger came up to me and my mom was there, I wouldn't be as nervous as if I was by myself. And when my mom returned, I would most likely be very happy she was back. Now, let's go to the opposite end of that. We have the resistant and secure. Now, even when they're with their mom, they're very unconcerned with exploring. And once she leaves, they show intense upset. They're very upset. And they're very uncomfortable around strangers. And when the mom returns, this happened for about 3 people in the study. The person absolutely rejected the mother. They got angry at her, started crying, walked away from her. And this is behavior of the mother was inconsistent. Now, what did we learn today? We learned that human development often it revolves around attachments or bonds that we create. The bonds that we create often help us develop psychologically, which affects our behaviors and how we think, how we act, who we talk to, why we talk to them. Now, our behavior is often affected throughout our development. Children will obviously react different than how infants would if their mother left. Teenagers react different from children and infants and so on. Now, the hypothesis was proven to be substantial to the results. The subjects reacted just exactly how they would based on their attachments, that being secure, avoidant insecure, or resistant insecure. Now, what would I change? So this experiment revolved mostly only around children and infants, and I found that a little strange because even though you're attached to something as a kid, even when you're much older, you can still be attached to something. And when that thing leaves like that, you might just become just as upset that it's gone. And how you would react to it might vary a little bit in this situation. So, my hypothesis would be that the human development changes how you would react to certain things. The man separated from his friend would not, as an older person, would not likely be as upset as quickly as the infant whose mother just was separated from him. So I concur that if you're with your friend and he leaves and someone completely random walks up to you, you might not be okay with that, but you'll be able to deal with it better than an infant would. And that's due to the development throughout your life. Thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Stephen Barbaro. Have a good night.